because money is the best incentive for any person. Well, not all, but my point is, when you have the right economic incentives, you can change a lot of performance, a lot of behavior. And what could be one right economic incentives? And that is the reason why Mexico is proposing to create a green fund, a fund against climate change. The green fund could be an instrument that allow the countries, the nation, and enterprises to get money to finance either mitigation programs, saving or energy efficiency programs, adaptation programs, or carbon sequestration programs. And what could be this mechanism? First, any single country, probably with the exception of the real poorest country in the world, but any single country must to contribute to create a fund under the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. For instance, like we do in the United Nations, any single country must to pay a quota to the United Nations, or IMF, or other multilateral institutions. We are going to talk a lot about this institution these days, by the way. So, but we can contribute. We, as the developing nation, Mexico, wants to contribute to this fund. Because sometimes when I talk with some of the leaders of some developed countries, say, you are proposing another fund. You know, my taxpayers are really tired to finance this and that. But I'm not requiring for a charity from you. I'm proposing an economic instrument. Everyone can contribute according to their own capabilities and according to one formula. What could be that formula? We can discuss that. The formula could be, for instance, taking into account the income per capita of every nation, or taking into account the size of GDP of every nation, or other criteria could be the total emissions, which is the discussion right now about if China or India or United States are the most, the largest emitters in the world. But the point is, or probably we can ponderate the emissions with populations, and probably the variable could be emissions per capita, or all these variables combined in some formula. So income per capita, emissions per capita. But the point is, we need to establish a formula in the sense that each country could contribute to the Green Fund, and at the same time, in the other side of the equation, each country could withdraw from the fund. In this sense, if I have a program, for instance, in order to substitute all the old appliances in Mexico for a new one with more efficiency in energy, I can get money from that fund. If I want to reforestate, for instance, 500,000 hectares in Mexico, I can get money for that fund. But if I don't do anything, if I have this irresponsible behavior, I will lose my money that I gave to the fund in that sense. If other country, regardless, developed or developing country, do the work and make something in order to reduce carbon emissions, that country has the right to get my money from the fund. Of course, we can establish other rules. For instance, developed nations can only withdraw less than their own quota, and developing countries could get more than their own quota, or other rules in order to equilibrate the performance of the funds. But my point is, okay, we need to reach a consensus in terms of the goals, but which is most important for me, we need to establish right now an instrument in order to put the world in movement toward serious carbon emission reduction. That's more or less the idea that we are proposing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, here today, at the home of these noble institutions, I want to pay homage to the numerous British historians, scientists, writers, and travelers who took an interest in Mexico and share their knowledge of my country with the world. I also pay tribute to creators, intellectuals, or thinkers of the United Kingdom who have shined a bright light on the science and art. It is with these great nations of universal ideas, timeless culture, and knowledge without boundaries that we Mexicans wish to forge a new history of friendship, cooperation, and understanding. And in this, the British Council is playing a leading role. So congratulations again on the first 75 years of these institutions, that is the pride of cultural dialogue between the peoples of the world. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, could I, on behalf of the British Council, offer our real thanks to you for taking, first of all, the trouble and giving us the honour of being here today, but most particularly for giving us such an interesting and indeed invigorating lecture to us all. And we're particularly delighted also to have the opportunity to welcome Senora Zavala here today. In particular, I'd like to thank you for your very kind words about the British Council and for your best wishes for our 75th anniversary. I hope that your policy of new for old doesn't also apply to institutions, but that indeed there is a further 75 years for us as an organisation. We are particularly proud of the way in which we have been able over so many years to work in Mexico and in close collaboration with the Mexican government. In some senses, it's perhaps slightly strange that two countries like the UK and Mexico, which do not share a very long historical and geographical tie as perhaps some others do, that we have such a close collaboration and such a close friendship and relationship. But I think what you've said to us today demonstrates so clearly why we have that closeness of relationship. Because in so many ways, we start from a very similar point of view. We start with concern about so many similar issues. And in so many ways, we are also coming to similar solutions to them. And it's a partnership which we believe, on the part of the British Council, is one of vital interest and vital importance to the UK for us to nurture and expand for the future. And nowhere is that clearer than in the issues of tackling climate change. And you have extraordinarily eloquently reminded us of how important it is for all countries, not just developed, but also for developing countries to work together, but also one way in which you've reminded us that it is an issue which affects everyone, including the very poorest in our societies and indeed the poorest countries, perhaps disproportionately to the extent to which those people actually contribute to the problems. And you've given us the honour of actually making real solid proposals about how we as an international community might take forward solutions to those programmes. It's the job of the British Council as a cultural relations organisation to work with people around the world, to build closer relationships between ordinary people, to give them a voice and to help them understand each other and understand ways in which we can collaborate together to find solutions to our shared programmes, our shared problems. It's of enormous importance to us that we're able to do that in such a powerful way with Mexico, and we very much hope and expect to be able to continue that work in the future. Thank you for giving us the honour of speaking to us today, Thank you for doing so in a way which I think has been enormously inspirational. And can I invite you all to join with me in thanking the President and Senora Zavala for being with us today and for giving us such an interesting and fascinating lecture. Thank you very much.